Dr. No came out towards the end of 1962 in the UK before making it to North America in the summer of 1963. Now, it was one of the top grossing movies of the year in Europe, but in North America it only got a regional release in no more than 450 theaters. No matter, it still turned a nice profit, with the $1 million movie earning more than double that in rentals, meaning the money that goes back to the studio, and this was in North America alone. So, not only was a follow-up a given, but in fact, the film was already shooting by the time Dr. No even opened in the United Kingdom and would come out in British theaters, while the first film was only in the middle of its first North American run. For the sequel, a very confident United Artists gave Eon the resources to double the budget, with Sean Connery, despite his grousing over the years about how little money he was earning as Bond compared to the producers, getting a cool $100,000 bonus, despite already being signed on to a 5-movie deal. Now, the end credits of Dr. No had already revealed that the next movie would be From Russia with Love, and certainly that choice was a no-brainer. At the time, John F. Kennedy was president, and he had revealed to Life magazine that From Russia with Love was one of his favorite novels, so it was in the public zeitgeist. Sensing they had a really good thing going, producers Harry Saltzman and Albert R. Broccoli brought back as much of the main crew as they could, with the notable exception of Ken Adam, whose work was so impressive in Dr. No that he was hired to design Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove. Sid Cain proved to be an able replacement and was arguably a better fit to this installment than Adam, as this would tell a much lower-key spy tale. In it, James Bond is targeted for assassination by Dr. No's organization Spectre, aka Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terror, Revenge, and Extortion, with this being revenge for the organization. This would be the first glimpse we'd get at Ernst Stavro Blofeld, whose face is never revealed here. You simply see him stroking his white kitty in silhouette. He's actually credited as question mark in the end credits, but it was Anthony Dawson, who played Professor Dent in Dr. No, who provided the body, while Eric Pullman did the voice.
Let his death be a particularly unpleasant and humiliating one.
Good.
Blofeld, here only referred to as Number 1, dispatches Spectre Number 3, Rosa Klebb, played by singer Lotte Lenya, and Number 5, Planner Kronstein, played by Vladek Shevel, to lure Bond into a trap where a Russian cipher clerk, Tatiana Romanova, played by Italian beauty queen Daniela Bianchi, is to pretend to want to defect to the West and is willing to provide a decoder called a lector if Bond will personally arrange her defection. Of course, Bond knows this is a trap.
No, it's some sort of trap.
Well, obviously it's a threat.
But he also knows that no woman could possibly resist his charm. So he drops trow for queen and country. Oh, the things I do for England.
You're one of the most beautiful girls I've ever seen.
Thank you, but I think my mouth is too big.
No, it's the right size.
He seduces Tatiana and steals the lector, while Spectre assassin Red Grant, played by Robert Shaw, yes, the Robert Shaw who played Quint in Jaws, is on his trail. He's helped out by his contact in Istanbul, Karim Bey, played by the great Pedro Menderes, with the climax set aboard the Orient Express, featuring one of the greatest hand-to-hand fights in screen history. Now, for many, From Russia with Love is their favorite James Bond movie, and indeed, other than Goldfinger, it's perhaps the most influential. It set a formula that even the Daniel Craig movies follow to this day. Bond's seduction scene with Tatiana Romanova is such a quintessential Bond moment that apparently all actors that audition for the role have to ace it if they want to get the part. Now, Connery himself always actually said that this was his favorite of the Bond films, and even came back after his retirement to voice Bond in a video game version of the film.
Who are you?
The name is Bond. James Bond.
Watching From Russia with Love now, it's shockingly low-key, and dare I say it, perhaps even a little slow at times, but of course, it's far superior to Dr. No. While straight-laced, there's just enough over-the-top action to make it a real Bond movie, with the gypsy camp fight scene between two women being another classic Bond moment that, well, in hindsight, might not exactly be PC, but was pretty cutting-edge for the era. In it, these two ladies are arguing over a man in a violent fight, only to be interrupted by the forces of Spectre, who are planning a massacre. Bond, Karim Bey, and the gypsies make short work of the bad guys, while Bond saves the gypsy camp leader, and, of course, in return, he's offered anything he wants. Anything, eh? So, Bond asks to put an end to the lady fight.
Could you stop the girl fight?
And instead, they're sent to his tent so he can console them.
So decide. They're both yours.
The next morning, the two ladies are best friends, and they're very friendly, tending to Bond's clothes in a very loving way. I think we all know what happened after the fade out, right? Viewed now, it's maybe a little hard to swallow, but you have to remember, heroes at the time were very chaste, and Bond was sexual. And the idea of a sexual hero, it's just not something that was done in the early 1960s. I mean, this was pre-sexual revolution era, and the idea that he slept with 2 women at the same time?
2 chicks at the same time, man.
This blew people's minds, and I'm actually surprised they got away with it. Outside of this, however, there were a lot of other classic moments, including Karimbe's assassination of a traitor, where the baddie climbs through a poster for a Bob Hope movie called Call Me Bwana, which, other than Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, is the only other non-Bond movie ever produced by Eon Pictures. And of course, there's the fight, then the boat ambush with the baddie played by Walter Gattel, who ended up playing General Gogol in a bunch of the Roger Moore Bond movies, and finally Rosa Kleb's poison-tipped shoe dagger. So let's break it down. The screenplay by Richard Maybaum is often considered his best, although I maintain that the film is just a touch episodic. You can really tell it's based on a book, and it follows the book relatively closely, except for the ending, where it diverges quite a bit. You see, in the original ending of the book, Bond is killed by Rosa Kleb's poison-tipped dagger. Ian Fleming at the time was kind of sick of the character and wanted to move on. Of course, a movie deal and it ending up on John F. Kennedy's list of best books probably changed things around a little bit, and by the next installment, James Bond was back. In the movie, of course, they dropped all this. He dispatches Rosa Klebb with a little help from Tatiana. I have to say, in the end, it's a smart, sexy story, and I always liked that it's one of the few movies in the series that's a true sequel to the one before it. We'd have to really wait until Quantum of Solace to get something like this. Spectre wants revenge for Dr. No, so I give this caper an 8 on 10. The villains are really good too. Not only do we get a first glimpse at Blofeld, but we also get a rare female villain that's not fetishized, being the sadistic Rosa Klebb, and Lottie Lenya is terrific in it. Kronstein is a bit of a weasel, but appropriate, but it's Robert Shaw's Red Grant who's really one of the best villains in the entire franchise, in that he's like a shadow James Bond. Shaw plays him like the flip side of the coin to Connery, and will be unrecognizable to folks who only know him as Quint from Jaws. Here, his hair is close cropped and blonde, he's in peak physical condition, and, well, he's Robert Shaw. I mean, if you want to see what he might have been like as Bond, you kind of see it in this movie. And his introduction, where he kills a James Bond double, which of course is played by Sean Connery, with a piano wire watch, is a great fake out. I'd say for villains, this one gets a strong 10 on 10.
I get a kick out of watching the great James Bond find out what a bloody fool he's been making of himself.
As for the Bond girl, Tatiana Romanova is an interesting case. Shown to be smart and independent, her love of Bond is a put on at first, only for her to fall head over heels as the film goes on, which makes her a little bit cliche, although Bianchi, who's dubbed as most Bond girls of the era are, is absolutely beautiful. I give the character about a 7 on 10. Now, the musical score for this one is great, with John Barry taking over scoring duties from Monty Norman. The film opens with a great action-style instrumental cover of the theme song by Matt Monro, which is average, and it shows up later on in the film. In addition to the Bond theme, Barry also introduces what would kind of become another Bond staple, the 007 theme, the music that comes on whenever James Bond's in action. That gets a 9 on 10. I should also mention the titles aren't by Maurice Binder this time, but instead Robert Brownjohn took over, and he's a solid substitute, with the credits being projected on dancers, a trick that Binder himself would use in later films. Gadgets only get a 4 on 10, although we finally get Desmond Llewellyn making his debut as Q. He really doesn't do much but hand Bond the movie's big gadget, a trick briefcase with a rifle, gas pellets, and 50 gold sovereigns built in.
Is that all, sir?
Yes, thanks very much.
Like Dr. No, there's an absence of one-liners, although he has a couple of good ones here. Once Rosa Klebb is done away with, Connery has a great quip.
She's had her kicks.
And then there's a great scene where Bond is being menaced by a helicopter, he shoots it down, and he has another one.
I'd say one of their aircraft is missing.
Where the film really excels is the action, with the train fight between Grant and Bond being one of the most memorable fight scenes of all time, with Peter Hunt's editing setting the stage for most modern action movies. If you compare From Russia with Love to something like The Bourne Ultimatum, you can really see where Paul Greengrass gets his influence. Terrence Young shoots everything in a much more frenzied, sophisticated style than he used in Dr. No. In terms of body count, Bond kills 11, up from 4 in Dr. No, but way below the series average of 16. Overall, From Russia with Love is justifiably the favorite of many serious Bond fans, although I must admit, for me anyway, it doesn't quite outpace some of my favorites, so I'd give it a strong 8 on 10. Financially, this was an even bigger success than Dr. No, doubling that film's gross to earn $12.5 million worldwide. Clearly they were on to something, but no one knew just how huge the next film would be. And I should also note, tragically, co-star Pedro Almendarez who played Karimbe, took his own life after the film as he was suffering from terminal cancer, something the filmmakers knew, so they cut down on his schedule so that he can complete the film and leave the money to his family. This would also be the last James Bond film to come out in author Ian Fleming's lifetime, but that's a story for another day, as James Bond will return in Goldfinger. Until next time, for JOBLO.com, I'm Chris Bumbray.